Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting for Monday, September 9th. All aldermen present and accounted for our general meeting this evening. We welcome those that are in attendance this evening, those that are watching at home, and also those that are streaming as well. We have a pretty straightforward agenda this evening. We do have a portion of the agenda known as Citizens to be Heard. I do have a few sheets, so if anyone in here would like to fill out a sheet, they're out on People Street. And if you pick one up and fill it out and sign the guidelines and complete it in total, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board at that particular time on the agenda, which I believe is item 6. This evening, our invocation will be led by our Community and Economic Development Director, Cameron Ross. Our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Alderman Massey. Please rise.
Let us pray. Thank you, God, for today's blessings, for tomorrow's hope, and for your abiding love. Thank you for this time and the beauty of your blessings around our city. We ask for those blessings and discernment upon both staff and our elected officials during this meeting. Please help us to become men and women of integrity and let your will be reflected in our actions. Tonight, we pray especially for those affected by Hurricane Dorian along our East Coast and in the Bahamas. We pray for their families, along with the search and recovery teams, as well as those providing food, clothing, and shelter during their time of need. Please protect them during the recovery process and let them see the visible outpouring of your love through others. We pray for your wisdom and guidance in all things, and we ask these things in your name. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Brings us to item 4 on the agenda, that's setting and adopting the agenda. The board meets in executive session at 5:30 to thoroughly vet the complete agenda. At that time, we went over the preliminary agenda and the regular agenda. There was some willingness to move things around. So at this time, we'll entertain a motion to set the agenda as presented to the public. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to move to modify the agenda to move item 9B and 9E off the preliminary agenda for some discussion.
Thank you.
To benefit the citizens.
Let's do, Alderman, let's do one at a time. And so there's a motion to move from the preliminary agenda, item 9B, contract video production. Is there a second?
Second.
It's a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Alderman Sanders?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gibson?
No.
Alderman Massey?
Yes.
Alderman Owens?
No.
Alderman Yonda?
No. Motion fails. You had mentioned also a willingness to move item E. There was a motion to move item E, payment, Malcolm Baldridge National Quality Award. Is there a second?
Point of order, Mayor.
Sure.
I was under the impression, I've always been under the impression, that any time a rule was changed that affected the rights of any member of the BMA, that it required a 2/3 vote. But when we changed from the consent agenda to the preliminary agenda, that was done with a mere majority vote. It was done with 3 aldermen. And this habit of the 3 aldermen determining what can and cannot be discussed in a meeting, I think may very well be a violation of our rules, and it's something that needs to be addressed, I think, before we continue. If I'm wrong, I'll look to the parliamentarian to advise, but I have read before that if there is a rule change that affects the rights of the alderman, then that rule must be passed by a 2/3 majority, and that's not how we arrived at the change that resulted in the use of the preliminary agenda.
Thank you, Alderman, for your point of order. Currently, we are setting the agenda, and that point of yours is well made for another time and another debate, another dialogue. But right now, the rules have been established, so we're setting the agenda this evening.
Well, Mayor, this is about our rules, and it's
They've
something
been in
that,
place since this spring.
well, and I've raised this issue in the past.
And the parliamentarian makes me aware that a point of order can only, on that particular topic, can only be done at the point or time of that infraction. So we are setting the agenda, and we have a motion on the table to move item E, payment, Malcolm Baldridge National Quality Award, to the regular agenda. It's been properly motioned. Is there a second?
Just
Nope.
a second. I'm sorry. I'm still trying to grasp what we're doing with the preliminary agenda, because
We're
that was
setting the
done.
agenda.
That was done outside of a public meeting. I mean, that was adopted. That we weren't operating under
We
the
are,
rules.
Alderman, again, we are setting and adopting an agenda this evening. And so, again, that is what we are focused on. That's what's germane right now. No other things are germane at this time. So it has been moved. You started to say second. Did you want to second Alderman Sanders'
I
motion?
will second Alderman Sanders' motion.
Thank you very much. There's a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Gibson,
No.
Alderman Massey,
Yes.
Alderman Owens,
No.
Alderman Yonda,
No.
Alderman Sanders.
Yes.
The motion fails. We return to setting the agenda. Is there a motion to set the agenda
I'd like to
as
make a
present-
motion to move an item, Mayor.
Sure, what is that
I'd like to make a
motion?
motion to move item D, the grant for GPAC Arts and Education.
Thank you. There's a motion to move item D, grant GPAC Arts Education, to the regular agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second it, so
There is a
Alderman Massey can
second.
have
Please
some
call the
discussion.
roll.
Alderman Massey,
Yes.
Alderman Owens,
No.
Alderman Yonda,
No.
Alderman Sanders,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gibson.
No.
The motion fails. We return to setting the agenda this evening. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented to the public?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Alderman Owens? Yes. Alderman Yonda?
Yes.
Alderman Sanders?
No.
Vice Mayor Gibson?
Yes.
Alderman Massey?
No.
The agenda has been set and adopted for this evening. That brings us to item 5 on the agenda, approval of the minutes from the regularly scheduled meeting of August 26, 2019. During executive session, there were no adjustments to the minutes. Are there any at this time? Is there a motion to adopt the minutes as presented to the public?
Move to approve.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Alderman Yonda?
Yes.
Alderman Sanders?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gibson?
Yes.
Alderman Massey?
Yes.
Alderman Owens?
Yes.
The minutes have been approved. Brings us to item 6 on the agenda, citizens to be heard. We have several sheets turned in this evening. I'll quickly read the guidelines for citizens to be heard. Citizens to be heard is designed to gain input from the public and not for immediate responses by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. The intent of this agenda item is to provide the public a platform to be thoughtfully heard and not a forum for dialogue, discussion, or verbal exchange with the board. While the board cannot assure each speaker of a specific or individualized future response, the board will consider the public comments and any supporting materials provided by the speaker. Public comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per resident. Speakers are asked to refrain from using names of personnel or names of persons connected with the city, particularly when using to lodge a complaint. Speakers will not be permitted to engage in gossip, hearsay, make defamatory comments, or use abusive or vulgar language. The presiding board chair shall have sole authority to terminate the remarks of any individual who is disruptive or does not adhere to board rules. With that being stated, the first speaker this evening is Dr. Don Fisher. Dr. Fisher, if you can come forward and you can go to either podium. Once you get there, make sure the light is green and you can adjust the microphone to your needs.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and Alderman. I'm glad to be here. My name is Don Fisher, and I'm here to support the Baldridge Award, the fee to be paid for the site visit. Just wanted to mention a few things. I completed an assessment of the city of Germantown about 10 years ago, on the assessment they started this journey, and so I felt really responsible for coming and supporting this because it's been phenomenal what the city's done in the past 9 years, really, 9 plus. Some things that I want to mention, why the city probably needs to be really positive about a Baldridge site visit coming up and ultimately winning the Baldridge site visit, that the city of Germantown would be the smallest city to ever win this award. We have 38,844 residents. Fort Collins, who won the award in 2017, has 143,986 residents. Irving, Texas, who won the award in 2012, has 238,289 residents. And the city of Coral Springs, Florida, has 130,059 residents, and they won it in 2007. I work worldwide with companies that apply the Malcolm Baldrige. I've worked for the in Thailand and in Dubai and different places. And city governments that win an award like this, it's just like winning an Academy Award for American business. It's a pretty big deal. As of 2018, there were 123 winners of the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award, but only 8 nonprofits. City of Germantown being as a nonprofit. The Baldrige Award was given in November 14th of 1988, 31 years ago. I've been an examiner. My number is number 219. I've been an examiner. I've been on the Baldrige Enterprise Board for the last almost 30 years. So I've seen a lot of companies, a lot of organizations around this country, around the world that win this. It's a big deal for economic development. Some of the things, the benefits you get out of this is that it really showcases your lean government, your Lean Six Sigma, your various formalized OJT, on-the-job training you do here, your root cause analysis. It's one of the, again, one of the smallest cities to ever apply for and to win the Baldrige Award, which is a pretty big deal. It gives you a global presence, international, worldwide press. You become a national global benchmark for city government. Winning the Baldrige is like...
Dr. Fisher, you have about 15 seconds if you could collect your thoughts.
Okay, great. It's just a really good way to showcase the city, and it's great for economic development. So I really recommend that you all consider approving this. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Fisher, for taking time to address the board. Our next speaker this evening will be Pauline Lathram. Ms. Lathram, if you could come forward and state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak to the board. Go ahead.
Pauline Lathram, 6958 Country Road. The board's new rule regarding the consent agenda is an arrow aimed at the heart of transparency. The change surrounding the renamed consent agenda, now called the preliminary agenda, is shocking in its abandonment of good governance. In the preliminary agenda, items can be passed as a group with 0 discussion. Items can now be removed from the preliminary agenda only by a vote of 3 aldermen. The name change became necessary because consent agenda is an official term of Robert's Rules of Order, the centuries-old gold standard of parliamentary procedure, the time-tested way of balancing the need for orderly meetings while respecting the rights of minority members to be heard. In a jaw-dropping move, the city has abandoned Robert's Rules of Order. An item's inclusion in a consent agenda requires unanimous approval using the time-tested Roberts Rules. For your information, the term preliminary means an event preceding something fuller or more important. Just when do we get to the fuller and more important part? It actually sounds like the vote itself is preliminary. The only conclusion that I can draw is that you fear the citizens hearing honest debate and discussion. Only in the short, untelevised executive session is there a small hint of discussion allowed about the preliminary agenda. And in the executive session, I heard about a payment of $33,000 matched by an additional $33,000 to enter a contest, the Baldrige Award. Some years there are fewer than 6 entrants for this award in the nonprofit category. Is an honor sought by so few really worth $66,000? It may be, but why is the BMA fearful of discussing this? Separately, I wonder how the Baldridge people feel about the city's astonishing abandonment of Robert's Rules of Order. Do they know about this? Please try embracing everything in Germantown without seeking expensive and needless external validation. At the very least, drop the fear and respect the citizens by allowing public discussion of this and other controversial measures. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Latham, for coming forward and speaking to the board this evening. Next speaker will be Janie Day. Ms. Day, if you could come forward and state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Thank you. Janie Day, 8187 Cherryfield Lane, Germantown 38138. I'm also representing the Germantown Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here to talk about the Baldridge Award. We are participating in that, and I'm very happy to do so. We are partners with the city in several areas, including our new magazine, which everybody should have received by now. That's a partnership with the city administration, and this is our first issue, so we're very excited about that. We also partner with Parks and Rec on an event for the community called Night Rider that's coming up at the end of September. So the city is all about partnerships and partnerships with the city, with the chamber. So the other one we're partnering right now is going to be filmed on Thursday. That is the PBS show with Information Matrix, and we've partnered with the city to do that. But the Malcolm Baldridge Award is a national quality award. It is like the Academy Awards that Dr. Fisher discussed. It is recognizing U.S. organizations in business, health, nonprofits, and service, and in the nonprofit sectors for performance excellence. When the city asked the chamber to participate and be a partner in this application, we jumped at the chance. The award is the highest level of national recognition for performance excellence. And as your statement that you always say at the city, excellence every day, this is exactly what this award is about. It will definitely increase and help economic development, and it will definitely have site selectors coming here and companies who are looking, and we are looking for businesses and corporate offices at the chamber all the time. So we're very, very excited to be able to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Day. We appreciate your comments and addressing the board this evening. Next speaker will be Michael Stoll. If you could come forward and state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
My name is Michael Stoll, 2546 Regents Walk, 38138. About 18 months ago, during the period that the FAC was reviewing the 2019 or the 2019 budget, one of the capital projects they were presented with was the GPAC outdoor venue. At that time, it was a $4 million project, and the city was asked to put up $2 million. Not 3 months after that 2019 budget went into effect, the proposal came back to this board that it was not a $4 million project, it was a $5 million project. And the city was asked to put up another 50% of that $1 million, so it became $2.5 million. During that time, construction started, and as we see tonight, and as we've seen over the past few months, there are change orders. And there are change orders in any project that we have over time. But these change orders keep building and building and building. Now, I know it's easy to look at these agenda items and say, well, they're contributing the money back to us from that $5 million grant. That may be true, but at the same time, the city is allowing a structure to be built that it will inherit and that it will have to continue to pay the maintenance, upkeep, and operating costs over the next 20 to 50 years for that building. I sincerely hope that this board or the administration will take a look at all the costs, because they're spread out in different places, for building this outdoor venue, whether it was the fire department truck turnaround, whether it was grading costs, any additional costs, all the costs involved to build this structure. I really love the parks here in Germantown, but they're outdoors and they're usually low cost to maintain. This outdoor venue is becoming more like an indoor venue, and in the long run, it will end up costing this city a lot more. You know I objected to it before last fall whenever the additional $1 million came up, and I object to this additional money now. I just ask that you sincerely put it out there for everyone to see all the costs that are incurred for this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stoll. We appreciate your comments as well. Our last speaker this evening will be Dr. Manjol John. If you could come forward, Dr. John, and state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board, and I apologize for the mispronouncing.
That's okay, Mayor. Respected Mayor, Aldermen, administrators, my name is Dr. Manoj Jain. My address is 6194 Dovecote Lane, Memphis, Tennessee. I'm a physician in the Memphis area. I've been here for over 25 years and lived in Germantown for over 15 years. During this time, I have seen the city grow. And as a practicing physician in Memphis area, I have worked with Baptist and Methodist Hospital as a leader in quality improvement in healthcare. In fact, I'm a national leader in quality improvement, working with institutes in Boston and overseas as well. What I want to do here today is to share my opinion about the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award. 6 years ago, I ran for a county commission for District 13 in Memphis. And I did that because I wanted to bring quality and efficiency in government, in Memphis city government, in Shelby County government. Part of that role, I worked with Mayor Strickland on his transition team. We brought in people from FedEx. Federal Express is beyond anyone's imagination the top quality performing company in the world. What they have done is to bring quality into day-to-day service. What I am very proud and want to congratulate the city of Germantown is that you have brought quality into governance, something which is a novel and a unique concept. And the celebration of that is the Malcolm Baldrige Award. So I stand in front of you and I ask this. Over the 5 years, I have seen your journey. I have been in a number of meetings with the mayors and the administrators. And I would encourage you to proceed ahead with the Baldrige Award. I have been proposing this and working with the city of Memphis as well. You will be an elite group. And lastly, your support for that award is essential. The future of governance is the quality improvement process, the Plan, Do, Steady, Act. That process and that award is a celebration of what the city of Germantown is for. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. John. We appreciate your comments this evening and addressing the board as well. That concludes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
I didn't fill out a citizens to be heard sheet, but I would like to speak as a citizen tonight to be heard. Do you want me to walk down to the podium?
Alderman, citizens to be heard are for our residents. You have the opportunity to have the microphone during the evening.
No, that's incorrect, Mayor. You and the 3 aldermen took that right away from me. The only opportunity I now have to speak on these issues is down there as a citizen, and I think I should be given that opportunity.
Alderman, let me confer. Now, Alderman, you would need to fill out a sheet, and so you failed to do that earlier. But we'll make an exception for you if you'd like.
Sure.
Would you go out and fill one out? Yes. Hold on. Excuse me one. Our sheet that has explicit rules to follow, and if the board has any willingness, I'll grant that. But does anyone on the board object? They have sheets out front. If you'd like to go fill one out,
You want me to fill out a sheet and come back?
that's what the guidelines are for citizens to be heard. Clerk?
We're going to take a recess, Mayor?
No, we're not.
Well,
You can do that while we're going to the next item, proclamation. I'm sorry. We can. Once you go down and fill one out and bring it back as quick as you can.
well, I don't want to miss a vote on any of the other
We will
agenda
not
items.
conduct any votes. At this time, we'll move to item 7B on the agenda. And at this point in time, I will read into the record a proclamation on behalf of Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. Whereas suicide is one of the most disruptive and tragic events a family and a community can experience, with more than 1,000 lives lost in Tennessee each year and an estimated 8 to 25 attempted suicides for each suicide death. And whereas suicide is the 9th leading cause of all deaths in Tennessee and the 2nd leading cause of death among people from the ages of 10 to 24. And whereas 3 lives a day are lost to suicide in Tennessee, which means we have lost 21 Tennesseans each week and 84 people per month. And whereas Tennessee veterans, active duty military personnel, and National Guardsmen face a disproportionate risk as compared to the general population of Tennessee, with more dying from suicide than combat. And whereas public awareness of this tragic problem is the key to preventing further suffering and loss of life, and the risk for human self-destruction can be reduced through awareness, education, and treatment. And as the highest risk for suicide is among the survivors of those who died by suicide or those who have attempted suicide. And whereas suicide prevention has been declared a state priority by the Governor of Tennessee and the legislature in partnership with the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network, implements the Tennessee Strategy for Suicide Prevention based on the National Strategy for Suicide Prevention. And whereas Tennessee is a national leader in the effort to prevent suicide, being one of the first states to develop a prevention and evaluation plan covering the lifespan, and whereas the Governor of Tennessee has appointed a Suicide Prevention Network Advisory Council to coordinate the implementation of the Tennessee Strategy for Suicide Prevention, and whereas the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network is a grassroots collaboration of Tennesseans and organizations working to eliminate the stigma of suicide, educate the community about the warning signs of suicide, and ultimately reduce the risk of suicide in our state. And whereas the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network is also committed to excellence in suicide prevention, intervention, and post-evaluation. Now, therefore, I, Mike Palazzolo, Mayor of the City of Germantown, do hereby proclaim September 2019 as Suicide Prevention Awareness Month.
Mayor, just a comment.
Sure.
would like to thank you for bringing this forward. This is something that is prevalent, certainly nationwide. It's something that is certainly hit home in our community. And for those that do suffer and are currently suffering from this, I thank you for that.
Moving back to citizens to be heard, Alderman Massey, would you like to take the podium? State your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
My name is Dean Massey. I live at 7915 in Nikerton in Germantown, Tennessee. I'm also an alderman on the board. I am standing here before you tonight because I was not given the opportunity to discuss some issues that the public feels deserve public discussion because the mayor and 3 aldermen have been allowed to essentially squelch the voice of any alderman who speaks in opposition to the mayor's agenda. This is in no way transparent. In fact, I think it's disgraceful. It's very disturbing. It's been a very disturbing trend since I've been on the board. It's been a concerted effort by certain elected officials to prevent voices in the minority from being heard, to retaliate against citizens and aldermen, and it's a practice that needs to come to an end. I have said before that we need a third party to come in and help us determine what is causing these actions that I believe are against the public interest. Unfortunately, I was in the U.S. District Courthouse all day, so I wasn't able to pick up my notes on all of these subjects, but I am going to do my best to respond to some of the issues that we have on the table in the limited amount of time that I have. I have been notified that the feed for the meeting is not working, Mayor, so that may be something you might want to get your IT director to address. Now, I'll start with the Grove outdoor venue. From my observation, the grant and the money that has been approved by the board is just a matter of playing a shell game with the taxpayer money. Ultimately, we are responsible as aldermen for that money, both the grant money, both the money that is given to us in the form of donations from GPAC, and I have real concerns about the mayor and city administrator serving on the board of GPAC and requesting public funding for that private organization. And in this instance, we are actually requesting public funds for a fence that is going to benefit a private organization. You are taking the public's access away from this property. And I don't see how that's legal, frankly. I don't see how the public benefits from the use of this money in that manner. We have long exceeded what was planned for the Grove.
You have 15 seconds, Mr.
GPAC.
Massey.
Unfortunately, I just don't have enough time to address all the issues.
Thank you for your comments this evening. That brings us to item 7 on the agenda this evening, special recognition, donation, Germantown Performing Arts Center, FY19. Mr. Lawton, Director Chandler.
Call on Paul Chandler to come forward and introduce some folks here this evening from the GPAC Foundation.
Thank you, Mayor. Ceremoniously, each year, we are very pleased to bring to you, as a special recognition, information that demonstrates that the amount of support each year from the public, the general public, government entities, and corporations and foundations support our endeavors. What we are recognizing is the 2018 and 2019 contributions totaling $627,245 in cash contributions, and from contributors, $171,269 in-kind contributions, totaling $798,514. I want to recognize Park Kennedy, the Director of Development, whose team leads this charge. Each year that process runs more efficiently, and contributors are recognized and celebrated, and it is my pleasure to bring those to you each year. As tradition, we invite the president of the board of directors of that year to address the mayor and the board. So I'd like to present this year's president, Lee Grinspan.
Good evening. Lee Grinspan, 7060 Manor Woods Court. Mayor, aldermen, administrators. GPAC is celebrating our 25th season this fiscal year, and I wanted to take just a moment on behalf of the GPAC Board of Directors to publicly acknowledge the very successful public-private partnership that we have enjoyed with the city of Germantown over the last 25 years. Together, we've established GPAC as a premier venue for showcasing the very best local, regional, national, and international talent in the performing arts. To give a sense of the impact of this partnership, we welcome over 100,000 visitors annually who are entertained by over 300 programs, performances, and arts-related events. With the opening of the Grove, the vision and creativity of this partnership will continue to not only enrich the lives of our neighbors and community, but to contribute to Germantown's reputation as a model for other communities to emulate. We are grateful for this creative strength that has come to define our partnership. Ours is a collaboration that has stood the test of time and demonstrates the power of a constructive public-private partnership. The GPAC board and staff are very grateful for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grinspan. That concludes our special recognition presentation. We look forward to this time next year when we will do the same exercise.
Thank you, Director Chandler. As I understand, and Mr. Chairman, and of course, our development director as well. Is there a motion to acknowledge cash donations to GPAC totaling $627,245 and in-kind contributions valued at $171,269 for a total donation value of $798,514 in support of the 2018-2019 GPAC season? Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Alderman Sanders.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gibson.
Yes.
Alderman Massey.
Yes.
Alderman Owens.
Yes.
Alderman Yonda.
Yes.
We gladly accept your great work from last year as it is in I guess, the form of dollars and cents, but we would be short-sighted if we didn't say thank you for all of the passion, the determination, the work, the effort, the energy. When you create great partnerships in the Memphis region, from foundations to corporations to individual donors, subscribers, benefactors, friends. I've learned a lot from your team over the last year or so that you guys love to have conversation with people who like GPAC, and it turns into dollars. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. Takes us to item 8 on the agenda this evening, Alderman Liaison Reports. We move from Alderman position 1 through 5, and if you could adhere to the 3 minutes would be great. Alderman Sanders.
Thank you, Mayor. The Beautification Commission met last Tuesday evening to authorize the purchase plan for this year's holiday decorations. Also, to purchase a live a Fraser fir tree that will be placed in Municipal Park for our annual tree lighting event that will take place on Friday, November the 29th at 5 p.m. So citizens are asked to save the date. Trees will be given away for the 2020 Arbor Day event, so those were approved and are going to be ordered. And the next meeting of the Beautification Commission will be Monday, October 7th at 5:30 at the Parks and Recreation Office. The Public Safety Education Commission had a successful event at the Germantown Festival this weekend where volunteers passed out over 500 bags with educational safety-related information to children and adults alike. We also distributed over 200 gun locks to gun owners who visited our booth, which will enhance the safety of children in our community and prevent accidental injury or death by providing a means for parents to safely store firearms where children are present. We want to I would like to publicly thank our police department for the excellent job they did providing for our safety and a smooth flow of traffic. Our fire department, who took care of several heat-related incidents of our fair goers, and also the Fire Association, who was able to collect over $2,500 for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. So they did a great job, and Chiefs, both of y'all, thank you. The Technology Commission will meet on the 17th at 6 p.m. in the IT training room, and the Senior Commission will meet on the 19th at 3:30 in Parks and Recreation. That completes my report.
Thank you, Alderman. Vice Mayor Gibson.
Thank you, Mayor. The Board of Zoning Appeals will meet tomorrow night to hear a variance request from Baptist Rehab. The Neighborhood Preservation Commission is busy planning for the Fall Neighborhood Summit, which will be Tuesday, October 29th, where we'll be focused on improving communications to and within neighborhoods, emergency preparedness, and neighborhood preservation. The Parks and Recreation Commission met on September 26th with several citizens attending who are interested in learning more about the new rules for parks adjacent to schools. The rules were reviewed with one amendment adopted to reflect a balance in park use. On September 14th, the Small Fry Triathlon will be held. On the 21st, Pops in the Park, which will be an outdoor concert. We welcome the public to attend. And due to a scheduling conflict with the commission, we will not be meeting on the fourth Thursday in September, but instead we'll meet twice in October. So that would be October 3rd and October 24th at 5:30 at the Parks and Recreation Office. That's my report.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Alderman Massey.
Mayor, I don't have a report this week.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Owens.
Thank you, Mayor. The Design Review Commission met on August 27th and reviewed a landscape plan for the new Forest Hill Elementary School, as well as a tree plan for the 34-lot subdivision of Oldfield Green on Forest Hill, Irene. The Planning Commission met this past week on September 3rd and approved the Bank of America site plan for the former location of Verizon there at Poplar and Germantown Road, approved the high school band room site plan at Houston High School, site plan approval, and also approved amended the Planning Commission bylaws to allow for project notification signs to be installed. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that will be coming to the Design Review Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals as well for their approval. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you for your report. Alderman Yonda.
Thank you, Mayor. I have the Amnesty Dumpster and Recycling Day report. It's going to be Saturday, September 21st at 7:30 a.m. to noon. Residents are encouraged to dispose of items not acceptable for curbside pickup. Paint and latex and oil, paint and chemicals are strictly prohibitive. Proof of Germantown residency is required and only homeowner-generated materials will be accepted. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. And just quickly from the Mayor's office, wanted to recognize so many valuable team members for making the 48th Annual Germantown Festival a great success. I know some of the aldermen mentioned that during their reports, but specifically I'd like to thank the fire department for being in full force and presence there, and also providing comfort to our residents and our guests. The police department and several of the reserves that are here tonight have pulled a whole lot of duty in making sure that our community is safe for our visitors and our residents, so we appreciate all the police that worked this past weekend and our reserves. Public Works as well for making sure the grounds were kept. And, the amazing thing about the Germantown Festival, by Tuesday, you'll drive by C.O. Franklin Park, and there you would have noticed that maybe nothing ever happened there over the weekend because they get it put back in the original shape from the prior week. So thank you to Public Works, General Services, who made sure the grounds were picked up, the trash cans clean, the restrooms clean as well. And I saw rental your crews out there in full force as well. We'd like to thank Parks and Rec for inviting the greater region to the Civic Club complex and all the parks that are there as well. And I would be remiss if I did not also thank our animal shelter because they put on the 24th annual running of the weenies. And I'd like to give a special shout out to Fire Marshal and MC Mr. Dwyer and all his great work. Jody, if you could pass that on. He was quite entertaining as usual. And also, just from a community standpoint, the Germantown Festival Incorporated is another one of those private partners of ours. We probably spend tens of thousands of dollars making sure that all the infrastructure is in great shape for the festival. Melba Fristic and this year's chairman, Tom Wilson, should be saluted and recognized as well. I'd also like to recognize some of the fine gentlemen at Public Works. As the community knows, we had a water main failure and an emergency was created near the intersection of Allenby and Farmington. That crew worked for the better part of 12 hours overnight to make sure that water services were restored. So I'd like to thank Brad Smith, Gene Klein, Jet Reisenhoover, Willie Travis, Mitchell Albertson, Andy Sanders, and Michael Ringwall. And I know several of the aldermen stopped by as well to add their support and comfort to those guys that worked throughout the night. So thank you to Public Works. Those guys sometimes are some of the forgotten guys in uniform as well. You gave me a lot to remember there, Chief. Did I get through it all? The Tennessee Task Force 1, thank you for reminding me. With the hurricane that really wreaked a lot of havoc in the Bahamas and throughout different parts of the East Coast, our crews were deployed, redeployed, I think deployed again, but you sent ambulance and swift water rescue as well. And anytime the volunteer state can get involved in helping out the greater nation is good for us, and it's good for those folks, and it gives us great experience along the way. So, Chief, please share that with Tennessee Task Force 1 as well. That concludes Alderman Liaison reports. We go to the preliminary agenda.
Point of inquiry, Mayor.
Sure.
For the attorney. Attorney McCarroll, if elected officials take an action that is essentially against the public interest, against the rules, and that action results in an ongoing violation of someone's rights or the law itself, what is the necessary step for correcting those violations?
You would have to get a law court to determine if, in fact, it was wrong.
Can you do that for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen? Do you have to have the votes of the majority, or can you do that on behalf of one alderman, or does it take the majority?
It takes the majority.
What is required for the alderman in the minority to have council address some of these potential violations?
You would have to hire them yourself.
What is the process for being reimbursed by the city after we have hired an attorney?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if you're entitled to that.
Yeah, Alderman, your point of inquiry, which I've given you some leeway, but it's really not germane to what's on the topic right now or on the agenda currently, which is the preliminary agenda. You can get with the city attorney during your time or his time and confer with him, and we would welcome that as well. Let's go over the preliminary agenda. As mentioned earlier, the preliminary agenda was thoroughly vetted and discussed and presented during executive session. During that time, there were some items that were requested to be moved, and those items did not or failed. Those amendments and motions failed. The preliminary agenda consists of the following items. Item 9A, agreement, 911 digital voice recorders. Item 9B, contract video production. Item 9C, donations, Germantown Community Library. Item 9D, grant, GPAC Arts Education. Item 9E, payment, Malcolm Baldridge National Quality Award. Item 9F, purchase ammunition. Item 9G, purchase annual computer upgrades. And item 9H, purchase firefighter turnout gear. Is there a motion to accept the preliminary agenda as presented to the public?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Move to approve.
There's a,
Second.
I think I get my motion in.
well, you have to be recognized before anything can be done. You have a motion that you'd like to share?
Yes, Mayor, I do. I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the rules to allow the board to discuss the preliminary, the items in the preliminary agenda.
Great, thank you.
I'll second that motion.
That motion is well taken, and the second is as well. Suspending the rules requires a 2/3 majority and is not debatable. So call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Gibson,
No.
Alderman Massey,
Yes.
Alderman Owens.
No.
Alderman Yonda,
No.
Alderman Sanders.
Yes.
The motion fails. We return to the preliminary agenda. Alderman Yonda, you were beginning to make a motion. Would you like to reaffirm that? There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Alderman Massey,
No.
Alderman Owens.
Yes.
Alderman Yonda,
Yes.
Alderman Sanders.
Since I do not support 9B or E, I will vote no.
Vice Mayor Gibson.
Yes.
The preliminary agenda is approved. We move to the regular agenda. First item on the regular agenda is item 10, ordinance number 2019-13, amendment to subdivision ordinance chapter 17, section 17-56, streets, third and final reading. Director Ross.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. This is the third and final reading for an amendment to the subdivision ordinance as it relates to streets, 1756. As we've discussed at the first two readings, these changes were in accordance with the update to the 2015 fire code. Planning staff worked with the fire chief and fire marshal's office on the proposed text amendments. The proposed text amendment at the top of page 2 that's in alignment with the discussion that occurred at the August 12th BMA meeting lines up with the documentation provided by Alderman Owens as well as the discussion provided by the board at that point. Added the words that are underlined, but I will read quickly. That dead-end streets shall be no longer than 750 feet or up to a maximum of 1,250 feet if homes on said street are protected with sprinkler systems and/or alternate access drive is provided. Those were the changes that were discussed, as well as going back to the 90 feet that was originally in the ordinance prior to the amendments. Happy to answer any questions on this third and final reading.
Thank you, Director Ross. Is there a motion to approve on third reading ordinance 2019-13, amendment to section 17-56 streets of the subdivision ordinance to the municipal code?
So moved.
There's a motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Alderman Owens, would you like the floor?
No, thank you.
Any discussion?
Sure, ma'am.
Alderman Massey?
So, Cameron, tell me again, I mean, we had the deferment. I don't remember what the position was of the developers that came and spoke to us. What's their position on this issue now? Do you know?
Mr. Massey, I'm here to present the amendments that the board made, not the position of the developers.
Hey, Director,
Yes,
refer
sir.
through the chair, please.
Apologies.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, I am not aware of the developer's position.
Great, thank you. Continue, please.
is staff saying they're now not aware of the developer's position, or they're not going to present the developer's position?
You want to restate what you just mentioned a moment ago to me, or to the board?
Mayor, to the Alderman, I'm not here to present the developer's position.
Thank you, Director.
Mayor, there's some confusion, and I need clarification because Mr. Ross said two different things. Originally, he said that he wasn't aware of the developer's position, and then he said that he wasn't here to present the developer's position. So he either was not aware or he was aware and just simply did not want to present their position. So if he knows what the developer's position is, I would like for him to enlighten me.
I think he just made the statement clear, plain, and simple.
No, he didn't.
You have the floor. Continue. He answered the question, so he's not representing the
Mr. Ross,
developers.
have you had any conversations with the developers since we deferred this item?
Director, go ahead.
Mayor, to the Alderman, I have not, as it relates to this item.
Did any members of staff talk with developers and get their input on this item to know what their thoughts are?
Director?
Mayor, to the Alderman, we simply went back and aligned the text that's in front of you this evening for third and final reading with the discussion that occurred at the board level, as well as what was approved on the other two ordinances that were the collective of this change to bring us up into compliance with the 2015 Fire Code.
Thank you, Director.
Well, I did not hear from the developers. You apparently or someone in your staff did, and I'm just trying to get a sense of whether or not they are pleased with the amended language or if they are in opposition to this. I'm not playing games. I'm just trying to
Alderman
see what
Massey,
they
with all due
said.
respect, that's your job to do. Continue. You have 2 minutes left.
Well, Mayor, I'm sorry. I don't believe it is. I mean, people come in and meet with staff more regularly than they do with aldermen on these issues, and then we're instructed to meet with staff.
You were asked
and
if
have these
if the
discussions.
developers, in essence, to paraphrase, were okay with this. That's something that you could do during the week and call them.
Well, but your staff is the one that revised this language. And
And
they're the ones that brought it before, so that we need to know why they made the decision to revise the language. If the developers like it, if they do, that's great. We'll move forward. I don't understand why we're playing these games and being evasive. Why can't someone just tell me what the developers wanted to do? And if they're happy with this, I mean, that's what's simple. Just tell me what they said.
Mayor, if I could
excuse me 1 second. The line of questioning is making staff have to determine whether development, that's not possible. As the director mentioned earlier, readings 1 and 2 were where the changes were made by this board. Mr. Lawton, go ahead.
Mayor, I was going to say that the administration, Mr. Ross, city staff, we report to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, not to developers. So it's I don't want to say it's not important, but you were the ones who directed to make this change in the fire code, which is exactly what we did. We're bringing that for you now in the form of the ordinance to the subdivision regulations. Whether the developers like it or not is not germane. It's what you directed us to do, and we brought it back for you.
It is germane in the sense that when we're deliberating, we should weigh all sides, and we should know what conversations were had with staff. And I still don't understand why the administration is being so evasive in answering these questions. I mean, why should your conversations with the developers be a secret? Why can't we all just share information on this issue? I'm done, Mayor.
Thank you. Any further discussion or questions? Alderman Yonda.
Yes, Mayor. Is this in line with what the fire department continues to want? From what I read, it is.
What this ordinance coincides with sprinklers and the prior two ordinances that were changed. So that's what this is, the companion piece.
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you. Just wanted to confirm that.
Any other questions? Please call the roll.
Alderman Owens,
Yes.
Alderman Yonda,
Yes.
Alderman Sanders,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gibson,
Yes.
Alderman Massey,
Abstain.
Motion carries. We move to item 11 on the agenda this evening. Change orders number 10 through 13, GPAC Grove Outdoor Venue. Director Douglas.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. This agenda item is to request approval of change orders number 10, number 11, number 12, and number 13 in the amount of $719,730.15, and also to accept $719,730.15 from the Germantown Performing Arts Center Foundation, and to approve budget adjustment number 2016. A little history. During the site visit walkthrough, city staff became concerned about the finished grade to the stage ratio at the northeastern corner of the stage. Since the construction was far enough along to get an idea of the finished product, it was easier to see that the grade to the north side did not allow a pleasant viewing experience for event patrons. The enhancements to the site grading will allow for an overall better experience for all GPAC event patrons. This request requires additional engineering to maintain proper drainage to the site. Also, during a site walkthrough, construction was far enough along, as stated earlier, to visualize how the function would flow from the east entrance, coming from the new restrooms out to the pavilion area. As designed, it seemed to create a bottleneck that would occur at the intersection of the new restrooms and sidewalk entrance. This enhancement to the east entrance is more of a preventative measure to reduce pedestrian buildup and enhance pedestrian traffic flow. As it relates to change order number 10, it has two components. The first component is the restrooms that were approved, restroom improvements or dressing room improvements that was approved during the August 12th meeting, had flooring that was called out for vinyl composite tile, VCT. That work has been underway, and staff is recommending that we improve the flooring with a more luxurious tile for low maintenance, more appealing for the patrons that will be using the renovated dressing rooms. The second component to this change order 10 is the entrance, as I mentioned earlier, from the Grove Pavilion into the new restroom area. This change is necessary so that the flow of traffic can continue more seamlessly. As it relates to change order number 11, staff is recommending the regrading to the site, which consists of modifications to storm drain systems, excavation, erosion control, concrete for additional curbing, and food truck pad modifications. These enhancements to the site will also allow for, as I stated earlier, a better experience for patrons. As it relates to change order number 12, construction for GPAC pedestrian walkways was approved during the FY20 CIP budget process. And the walkways include landing pad at the GPAC entrance from Neshoba Road for pedestrians coming from Thornwood and going back across, wider walkways along the eastern perimeter, and additional concrete paving at the eastern gate entrances. As it relates to change order 13, construction of GPAC perimeter fencing was approved during the FY20 CIP budget process, and the scope of work includes the installation of architectural screens on all four sides of the Grove. Revisions to the original drawings include additional pedestrian access gates
and modifications to the placement of fencing along the perimeter due to the regrading. Staff recommends approval. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Director Douglas, for the presentation. Is there a motion to approve change order number 10 in the amount of $21,549.86, to approve change order number 11 in the amount of $217,740.85, to approve change order number 12 in the amount of $73,529.66, to approve change order number 13 in the amount of $406,909.78, to increase the construction contract with Grinder Tabor Grinder Incorporated for the GPAC Grove outdoor venue from $4,001,844.67 to $4,721,574.82. For these change orders, to accept $719,730.15 from the Germantown Performing Arts Center Foundation, and to approve budget adjustment number 20-16. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
The motion, is
Second.
there a second? There's a motion and a second. Vice Mayor?
I had a question for Director Chandler, if he could come forward just for a moment. As far as the model that GPAC has with the city of Germantown, is that unique to Germantown, or is that the norm across the country?
Mayor, there are basically three models for the overall oversight and management of a performing arts center. The most common ones are government or university or college. And then the third one would be independent, which was all fueled by philanthropy. Those commonly occur in major markets where philanthropy is at its highest level.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Vice Mayor? The Alderman Yonda, did you want the floor? Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
I may have a question for our finance director on this.
Ms. Royals,
Mayor.
if you want to come forward. Go ahead, Alderman.
I'm sorry that I didn't call you today to ask you about this. I'm trying to figure out how this hits our CIP. We have $2.5 million from the state. We have $2.5 million from the foundation. And why are we making an adjustment to our CIP? Is it just because we have to put that money into that account?
Director Royals?
Mayor, this was agreed before the budget was put in place, that any additional funding would come from the state grant.
Thank you, Alderman.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Alderman Sanders.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a question as it relates to change order 10. I met with staff at the site, and at the time I pointed out that they had already saw cut and demoed and hauled off the work at the cost on here of $2,923, and also the tile in the restrooms had already been, the flooring had been installed. Can you tell me if any other item on this change order 10 is in progress or completed?
Director?
Yes, Mayor. As it relates to the flooring for the restrooms, that's actually in the dressing rooms E and F that was modified to eliminate a dead-end corridor that was approved on August 12th. To my knowledge, there's no other work that's been done on this project.
Thank you, Director. Alderman?
Thank you. As it relates to change order 11, the modifications to the grading, storm drain, and retaining wall, it appears to me that when the architect designed the layout of the Grove, that it should have been considered that building a stage at a 5-foot height, knowing that patrons would be in chairs or on blankets, that it should have been noticed. I don't know if it falls upon the architect or the city when we reviewed those plans before we started our contract, but it seems to me that some of this cost should be borne by the architect, for instance, instead of the city or taxpayers bailing out an error that they should have caught. I mentioned that at our site meeting that, you know, that I thought that that was the case, and I didn't know if the city looked at that at all and discussed that at all, or feels that the architect has no responsibility at all in this particular situation.
Thank you, Alderman. Director, you can add, but this is a change order. Alderman, we could just live with the way it is now, or we could improve it to the specifications that we desire. I'm not so sure that there was a mistake, but it was drawn a certain way. Director?
That is correct. According to the design that was put out for bid, Mayor, it was designed correctly, but once everything was put in place and we could actually get a good feel for the lay of the land, pun intended, we decided to recommend this change.
Thank you, Director. You still have the floor, Alderman.
As it relates to change order number 12, we did have in our budget just 2 months ago that we approved $50,000 for the sidewalks and pedestrian walkways. And now we've increased that to $73,500 and change. Is what caused that change just in that short 2-month period?
Director?
Mayor, if you could refresh my memory on the $50,000.
Go ahead,
On that,
Administrator.
on change order number 12, there's actually in the approved CIP, $80,000 is what was allocated for this project, and it was identified that it would come from the state grant portion of that, not $50,000. The adopted CIP for FY20 for that landing pad has $80,000 in it.
Thank you. Continue.
Okay, I apologize then. I did look in the budget book that we used for our work session, and I saw that figure in the FY20 of $50,000. Then would change order 13, we approved $300,000 for the architectural fence in that budget. Am I correct on that amount, Mayor, or did that change also?
Director, City Administrator? Go ahead, Mr. Chandler.
Now we're looking at $400,000.
It's actually $270,000 for the improvement portion of it, and $30,000 for professional services. And so what the budget adjustment is doing is increasing that by another $136,000 times 10. The 270 plus the 136 times 10 are both coming from the foundation grant for a total of 406,000 times 10. So we are adjusting the budget by 136 times 10, adding that to the 270 expenditure of 406 times 10, all of which will be reimbursed $30,000 in hand from the foundation.
Thank you, Mr. Lawton. That concludes your time, but if you have another round if you choose. Any other questions on this particular item? Sure. Alderman Massey?
So what I heard during the exchange was that there was no mistake, and that these changes are the results of wants of unidentified individuals somewhere. I'm not sure if it's the wants of city officials or members of the GPAC board. It's very unclear exactly who is driving the requests for this money. But in my opinion, if there's no mistake, if there's nothing wrong, and we're simply spending the public's money, that may be in violation of the fraud, waste, and abuse laws that we have here in the state, because I have not heard of any justification at this point for spending the public's money on the want of some unidentified individual, either in city government or on the GPAC board, I presume. So I guess I would start with that, Mr. Douglas. How will the public benefit from these changes, particularly the fence and the retaining wall that I presume will keep the public out?
Director Chandler or Douglas, either one, go ahead.
Specifically, Mayor, in regards to the perimeter, perimeter has always been a desired item for this project. The perimeter does several things. It allows us to control attendance, and it also is a safety feature for visitors inside of the perimeter. We expect and anticipate lots of families attending, so we want the kids of those families to be able to frolic around the park freely, and the parents not imagine them getting out. We'll have ushers and security, of course, at those portals. And then just in general, in the business of presenting performing arts and arts education and entertainment, a perimeter is necessary to charge for a ticket to be able to control ingress and egress. We plan to have both ticketed events and free events for the public.
Thank you, Director. Continue, Alderman.
It sounds like to me, though, that the fence in particular is designed for the benefit of the nonprofit organization rather than the public. And I contend that this is a misuse of public funds. At this point, I would like to make a motion that we defer this item to give the city attorney time to review I'm making a point of order. Jason should stop the clock.
No, continue.
Well, once the motion starts, that should be part of my new motion.
Continue. You have the floor.
I'd like to make a motion to defer.
There's a motion to defer on the floor. Is there a second? Is it? Thank you, parliamentarian. Is it safe to say your motion is to postpone till the next meeting?
I think that would be fine.
Okay. That's been made in the form of a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Point of order, Mayor.
Sure.
My time is still running, and I have a motion on the table. My time should have been stopped.
Stop it.
And reset.
Go ahead.
I
Please
lost
call
quite
the
a
roll.
bit of time.
Call the
Alderman
roll,
Sanders?
please.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gibson?
No.
Alderman Massey?
Yes.
Alderman Owens?
No.
Alderman Yonda?
No. The motion fails. You have the floor. Continue.
Point of inquiry for the city attorney.
Sure.
City attorney, how is it legal for, one, the city administrator and mayor to serve on the board that is the recipient of these funds, and presumably the board and the organization is the beneficiary? The mayor and city administrator apparently brought this request forward for the benefit of their board. To me, that seems like a conflict.
Your point of inquiry is taken. You've asked your question. City attorney. Mr. Heisman, please start the clock. Go ahead.
I can't answer that question off the cuff. I'd have to look into the specifics of what we're talking about. I don't know exactly what the roles are. I don't know exactly how a business is conducted, but it can be done legally.
If this board votes in a manner that a court determines was a misappropriation of public funds, what are the consequences for the aldermen who voted for that action?
City attorney.
They could be prosecuted in court, but it would take a legal finder of fact and a court of law to determine that. You can't just say it the way it is. You have to have it determined.
Based on some of the things that you know now, would it be your recommendation that we defer this vote tonight and give you an opportunity to take a look at the law as it pertains to the use of public funds for the benefit of private organizations, particularly where city officials also serve on the boards of those private organizations?
That's really not my decision to make.
Well, you're our legal
Thank you.
counsel, so I think we would appreciate some counseling on this.
Your time on the floor has concluded, and our city attorney has opined. The floor is open. Any further discussion? Alderman Sanders.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Actually, we have, the only person who has not spoken is Alderman Owens, and so we're on the second round. Yep. Alderman Sanders, go ahead.
Thank you. I've supported the Grove project on previous votes. I believe it's going to be a good venue. I'm looking forward to it being open. I just really think that some error has occurred in this at some point or another, especially in the design phase. Looking at the grading plan and the design we have here in our attachment, I just truly believe that the citizens should not be solely responsible for correcting this error in that project that will not allow a desired viewing experience. So I just want to make that statement to the public that I do hear you in the community, and as you contact me about the price of this venue seems to be getting out of control. I did mention that to our CIP director and our staff as we met out there last week, and I do hear your concerns, and also the concerns of those who spoke tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Further discussion? Alderman Massey.
Mr. Douglas, who was the architect?
Director.
Professional services for design is through Archimania.
Thank you, Director. Continue.
Were they responsible for the original design in front of the stage that needs to be regraded now?
Director.
Our professional services is with Archimania, and they have been the designer the entire time.
Thank you. Continue.
And have they explained why they did not catch this error?
Director, and I'm not sure that there's the quantifying the term error is appropriate, but the change order that has been made, I guess to just to add on to that question, was there discussion with our architectural firm?
Mayor, from our determination, along with conversations with the architect, original design, and there was nothing wrong with it. It's once everything was put into place, we could get a better visual on how the lay of the land is going to be, so we recommended the change.
Thank you, Director. Continue, Alderman.
I guess these venues are designed all the time, though, and people understand essentially what the viewpoints are going to be from the stage and then from the ground to the stage. So why didn't someone recognize from the beginning that this was going to be a problem before we expended all this money on work that now has been determined to have, I don't know any other way to put it, a design error? I mean, if it's not an error and everything is copacetic, then why are we requesting this change? You can't have it both ways. Either there is a problem with the design or there's not a problem with the design and we don't need to fund these change orders.
Director, I believe that was more statement than question, but the board has the ability to accept this or not. So it's at the discretion of the board whether to make this enhancement to the project is something that the board would desire. Continue. You have the floor.
Mayor, your administration is the one that's bringing this change order forward and requesting the funding. So we have to look to your staff to explain their reasoning. At this point, I'm not hearing much justification for this change order. So that's what I'm looking for at this point.
Alderman, we can help with that.
Mayor, again, I
Administrator?
think Mr. Douglas has explained this. There is no problem with the design. There's no error in the design in any of the change orders coming for you. These are enhancements to the project. Exactly what the state of Tennessee granted the $2.5 million to the city in the first place was to go in and complete that project. When we opened the bids originally, there were a number of deducts and alternatives that we did not take because we did not have the funding to complete the project the way we wanted it. Many of these do that. The grading, again, is not an error. It's an enhancement to the project. Once staff went out there and visually observed the viewing experience, our recommendation is to correct that now.
Thank you, City Administrator. Continue, Alderman.
Are we going to have to remove any of the work that has already been done in front of the stage?
Director?
Mayor, could you be more specific with that question?
Alderman, is there a specific area? You walked the property. I'm assuming you probably had these questions when you made your site visit.
When we did walk the property, there's the area in front of the stage that needs to be regraded.
Is that the area in question is in front of the stage or to the north, I believe?
It's, the area is actually in front of the stage and to the north of the entire structure and slightly to the east where the food trucks will be. As far as work to be reworked, the manhole covers will have to be raised. But as far as the drain structure that is underground, it remains in place. It's more of bringing in more fill, dirt, and making the grading to where it's more flat across the area for people to have a good experience when they're there. But as far as actually ripping out any of the drain structures, no.
Thank you, Director. And that concludes your time on the floor. Any other questions? Alderman Yonda?
Again, I want to ask this question. We got $2.5 million from the state. We got $2.5 million from the foundation. How much are we putting into it for the city? Are we putting anything in? Is the city funding anything from the CIP?
On this particular, what's in front of you right now, on this particular agenda item, well, the answer would be $0.
Okay, thank you.
Point of clarification, Mayor.
Sure.
How much is the city putting in to the overall Grove project? Because that's a little misleading to state that we're not putting in any of the money.
I don't have that figure, but the question was on this particular agenda item, the request that's in front of you this evening, there's $0 coming from the operating fund or any other fund associated with the city.
I asked for a point of clarification, though, about how much the city is putting into the project overall.
That's not germane to what's the topic currently. So now the floor is open. Alderman or Vice Mayor Gibson? Alderman Owens.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I mean, I acknowledge that we have had some additional costs since this project began. There's no denying that. I think for me, it's the change orders that we're looking at tonight, and I'll call them enhancements. They're being paid for by the GPAC Foundation via the state grant, as you mentioned. So the city is not having anything to do with these costs. These are enhancements. These are going to make.
Point of order.
What is your point of order?
As fiduciaries of any public money, the city actually is having something to do with the state grant. We manage that money as the stewards of the public funds. So it's misleading to say that it's not.
You're entering into debate opposed to a point of order. So continue, Alderman Owens.
My contention would be that we are receiving funds from a state grant. We are utilizing those funds for enhancements for this, what I will call to be a facility unlike any other. I think it is a gem, a crown jewel for our city, and will be for generations to come. I wish, I understand some concerns, but I wish we could all be excited and grateful that the grant allows us to have such a fantastic venue. As I've said, this is going to be a gathering facility, a community building facility for our residents. It's going to strengthen community ties, I think, while we're appreciating the fine arts. And what could be better than that, in my humble opinion, for our city? I've heard from countless residents, families, whether it's at the Performing Arts Center, whether it's at our parks, whether it's at the Food Truck Festival, there was a tremendous success that we're so excited, ecstatic, in fact, about the opportunity to gather in such a setting with the pastoral or natural sense underneath the trees, and to hear music and to experience community and family. I just think it's a fantastic situation that we find ourselves in. I acknowledge our resident who spoke earlier. You know, there are some increased costs, and with that comes increased maintenance. But I would argue that should be minimal for the benefit that we receive and that our residents receive. I'm very excited about this project and look forward to seeing it come to fruition.
Thank you, Alderman. Any further questions or discussion? Please call the roll.
Alderman Yonda,
Yes.
Alderman Sanders,
Abstain?
Vice Mayor Gibson,
Yes.
Alderman Massey,
No.
Alderman Owens.
Yes.
The measure passes. We move to item 12 on the agenda this evening, the complement to the prior agenda item. PSA Supplement Number 4, GPAC Grove Outdoor Venue. Mr. Lawton or Director Douglas? Director Douglas, go ahead.
You good?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Board. The professional service agreement supplement for GPAC Grove Outdoor Venue design will be increased by with Archimania in the amount of $36,649. This includes engineering design for grading enhancements and entry plaza enhancements. This agenda will also accept $36,649 from the Germantown Performing Arts Center Foundation and to approve budget adjustment 2015. As I mentioned in the previous item, during the walkthroughs on the site, after things were put together to give us better visuals, that's when the request for change orders by city staff was initiated, and in order to do the work, design has to happen. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas. Appreciate the presentation. Is there a motion to authorize change of the professional services agreement amount for the GPAC Grove Outdoor Venue, increasing the agreement amount with Archimania by $36,649 from $397,332 to $433,981, to accept $33,649 from the Germantown Performing Arts Center Foundation, and to approve budget adjustment number 20-15. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
A motion by Alderman Yonda. Is there a second?
Second.
It's a second by Alderman Owens. Alderman Yonda or Owens, would you like the floor? Go ahead, Alderman Owens.
Who is the engineering firm that Archimania is using?
Director?
With our first supplement or agreement with Archimania, they were using SSR. Not sure who they're using for design on this particular item.
Alderman? Thank you. Alderman Sanders.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm looking at, under the discussion, this change order supplement 4. We have a design fee for $17,430 for the east project entrance. And then it says additional design fee, $19,219 for revisions to the site grading. In our previous agenda item on grinder taper grinders change order request 011R1, under notes number 2, it says the work to be completed from the sketch provided, no additional plans required to avoid additional delays. And that talks about demo of the storm drain, rock and dirt, concrete and asphalt bait, layout, erosion control, and site labor. So why are we adding this fee of $19,000 for grading revisions?
Director?
Yes. Excuse me. The sketch that you see in your packet is so that things could be quantified as far as cost. It is a requirement for the city anytime that construction happens is that we have stamped drawings by engineering firm.
So even though Tabor Grinder, our contractor, says they can make these changes, that's going to cost $217,000 without additional plans being required, we're going to go ahead and get the plans anyway at a cost to the taxpayer of $9,219.
Director?
Again, this is actually funded by the foundation of GPAC. When our inspectors go on site, they have to have drawings and plans to go by. Specifications, schematics are not sufficient for that. So for that reason, we need to move forward with the recommendation.
Thank you, Director. Alderman?
That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions? Alderman Massey?
Sure. Mr. Douglas, you said that this is being funded by the foundation. So can you elaborate on that?
Director, go ahead.
Well, cost that we're going to incur through enhancements to the outdoor venue is funded through the GPAC grant that they received from the state.
Okay, that was the question I was asking, if it was actually money that was coming from the state or if it was coming directly from donations that were made to GPAC. Well, what you're saying is that the grant money was given to GPAC, and now GPAC is using that money to reimburse the city. Is that correct?
Director, that I can answer for you. That was the part of the presentation earlier. The answer to that is affirmative, yes.
And who is SSR?
Director?
SSR is an civil engineering firm. They have different disciplines within their firm, so they can serve, I guess, as a sub-engineering firm for an architectural firm.
Is that an abbreviation for something? Is SSR an abbreviation?
That is correct. Do you have that at your leisure? Director? Smith, Sedman, Reed, SSR.
And why do we not know who the engineer will be on the second round?
Director?
Our supplement is with Archimania, the architectural firm, not an engineering design firm.
Thank you, Director. Alderman?
Is there a chance that Archimania will use SSR again?
Director, I mean, that's you don't have that knowledge. That would be just your intuition.
I don't know who Archimania is going to use. I'm not part of that firm.
Has Archimania indicated that they will not use SSR again?
Director?
Your Honor, Mayor.
That's all right.
Being badgered. They have not made any indication to us.
It feels like you're on the witness stand at times, I know. Go ahead, Alderman.
So I would like to clarify something else that a citizen brought to my attention. I don't know if it's true or not, but they mentioned that one of the city administrator's relatives might work for Archimania, and now would be a good time to clarify that. I have no idea if it's true. It was a concern of theirs, and
Alderman, you stated you're concerned. Do you want to address that or not? It's up to you, Administrator.
It's a ridiculous question, Alderman Massey. I'm not sure where you're going with this, but to satisfy your morbid curiosity, the answer is no.
Thank you, City Administrator. You have the floor.
Well, to be honest with you, City Administrator, it wasn't my curiosity. A citizen asked me, and I said I have no idea, and so thanks. Did you ever have a relative working at Archimania? Maybe that's what.
Your line of questioning is moving offline. Go ahead, though. You have the floor.
So, Mr. Douglas, was there ever any conversation with Archimania about doing this work without incurring additional costs for the professional services?
Director?
No.
Thank you, Director. Alderman?
Was the question ever posed to Archimania as to why they didn't identify this problem initially?
Director?
As stated earlier, Mayor, as far as design go with drainage, it was designed correctly, but this is an enhancement to the entire area. So there was no wrongdoing on the part of the.
Thank you for restating that. It takes lots of times to be stated before it sinks in.
So you
Go ahead,
keep-
Alderman.
Mr. Douglas, you keep referring to the drainage, but the issue that we're discussing tonight is the regrading of that area. And so are you differentiating between the drainage and the work that has to be done for the grading to elevate that area so that you don't have that poor grade there?
Director, go ahead. Drainage goes with grading. I think everyone knows that, but go ahead.
Could you repeat the question for me?
Does drainage and the grading, are they hand in hand?
Yes.
Well, that wasn't my question. I was asking if he was differentiating between the two, because
Is there a differentiation between the two?
Well, they go hand in hand, but grading for a better experience or flatter surface, you still have to have drainage as part of it. Really not sure how I can say that.
I understand.
Different ways.
Thank you, Director. That concludes your time on the floor. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Alderman Sanders,
No.
Vice Mayor Gibson,
Yes.
Alderman Massey,
No.
Alderman Owens,
Yes.
Alderman Yonda.
Absolutely.
The measure passes. I would like to thank the board for their support on those last two items. I echo the sentiments of Alderman Owens in that this will be a treasured project for the community at very minimal cost to the community. Alderman Massey, the clerk will need your citizens to be heard sheet, and as mentioned during executive session, due to the lack of a quorum, due primarily because of a fall break, the meeting on October the 14th, Monday, October the 14th, will not be held. We are adjourned.